Hey guys and gals, they, them, there, all of you. I love you so much. My name is Erin Nicole, and I am the creator and founder of the Move Happy movement. So you might be listening or you might be watching this on YouTube. Really grateful for all of you. On this show, I typically interview different leaders and get their tips and strategies to help empower you to live your happiest life. Today, I have a special talk with just me. So hopefully, it adds some value to you. If so, make sure at the end to check out the downloads for a contest. And I would appreciate a share either on social media or someone that you care about. Let them know about the show to help keep growing the audience. So this week, the content is all about sleep and joy. And we got some new moms, new dads that listen to the show. I know you're all about sleeping and the joy of sleeping whenever you can get it in between feeding your baby and family time and work obligations and things like that. We've got some elderly, amazing, wise people that haven't been getting some good sleep. They're struggling. Maybe you're on that CPAP, BiPAP machine and you're new with it and the mask doesn't work right. Or maybe you have some sleep issues. Maybe you just were born with some chronic sleep concerns. I know one of my friends in high school struggled with her sleep, and she wasn't overweight. They couldn't figure out what really was going on. They did a nose surgery. I remember her septum, or forget, one of the bones they shaved off a little bit to help open up the passageway to help. So sleep's really important. Doctors highly recommend it. I know I had a guest last summer, amazing, phenomenal speaker and presenter. Thank you to all you LinkedIn connectors for connecting me to his content and whatnot. I wasn't aware of who he was before, but somebody put my name, tagged me in his comment that he was looking to get on shows. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, and his reading material, he's got best-selling, multiple best-selling books he's co-authored, and some I believe he's authored himself. His reading material is required of all DEA agents. He's been on 60 Minutes in 2020 and all those shows, and I was honored that he took time to be on mine last season. But something that really stood out from what he told me, or told, I should say, the audience, and I'm listening and I'm learning as I'm interviewing him. He says a soldier going through PTSD, they are 5 times more likely to end their lives from lack of sleep compared to war-related PTSD trauma. So sleep is really important. It's important to help us keep a healthy mindset, how we behave and treat others that we're around, whether it's our family, friends, coworkers, strangers that we see in the grocery store. Sleep's really important. It affects our weight. If we're not getting good sleep, I remember I worked at JBLM. Those of you that aren't familiar with the military lingo acronyms galore, it's Joint Base Lewis McChord. They used to be separate, Fort Lewis and McChord Air Force Base. Some funding, budget issues, concerns. They started downsizing, I think, around 9/11 or thereafter. And so then they joined it. So JBLM, I had the blessing of working there shortly after grad school. The year after, I had 5 part-time jobs. That was a tough year. Very grateful to work in one location. And what I learned, so I was a part of a team. There was 9, I believe 9 of us. We had Dr. Bruder was our head director, pastoral background, and she is RN, and her second in command, Nurse Lynn Larson, phenomenal lady. I learned a ton from her. We had Lynn Poppy, who was another RN, holistic nurse practitioner, I believe is her title, her certifications and whatnot, and military spouse and whatnot. We had a few other gals that were amazing as well. We had an amazing, he was one of the top, if not the top sleep specialist doctors for I believe he's in the Army, because they had a little bit more medical funding to help with our program and our grant that we had. He came in, he's a sleep specialist doctor. So if you're going to get trained on sleep. If you guys are going to learn about sleep this week, enjoy from me. I want to bring you nothing but the best. And I am sorry in advance. I don't remember his name. It's in my notes somewhere in one of the journals. I moved a lot after that. But anyway, so we had this, kind of meeting, training session. They were adding sleep to one of our components for a holistic wellness coaching. We did baseline testing for cardio. We did baseline testing for, it's called basal metabolic rate, or how many calories your body burns just for you existing in this world. We also did plethysmography. It's a really hard word to say. Testing, or bod pod testing. The bod pod is the brand of the machine that the NFL uses to measure the percentage to a very close, decimal point. Essentially, it's like another way of, measuring the body fat through the caliper test if you pinch the skin, or what's currently the standard for, at least for the Army and Air Force. I'm not sure if it's for all branches, but they do like the waist, they measure the waist, hip to waist ratio. Height weight for BMI is kind of the gold standard. And so this was another way they were testing with the bod pod to see how closely connected it was. And then also to help educate our active duty soldiers, spouses, veterans, I should say everyone's a veteran that's in the military, but retired veterans. We had a lot of older gentlemen and ladies that served, coming in to get their, massage chair and their biofeedback training. I was the exercise sports psychology person on the team, and it was great. It was great. We had this mini training session in between seeing our clients. Shortly thereafter, we launched and had the ribbon cutting. And this doctor, graciously gave of his time because our patients were his soldiers. So he wanted to make sure that his soldiers were taken care of. So I bring you the most relevant information from hands-on experience, because it is life or death if you're in the military or you're a first responder, and you haven't been getting sleep for a certain amount of time, or it's life or death for your partner, or maybe someone in your platoon or your brigade, or et cetera, et cetera. So it can be life or death for those that aren't in the military, that aren't first responders. I bet you know somebody that does. I know at least we're like 5 or 6 connections away from each other, just you listening to me right now. So there's got to be somebody in that circle, because I have a lot of military and a lot of first responder friends, family. They're all around us. So we can all support and empower, whether it's personally relevant or it's somebody else that we can share the information to help empower them. So this doctor, the sleep specialist doctor, he's talking about, the importance of sleep. For our particular thing was for, weight and how overall health and holistic living. But he also wanted to answer some Q&As, because when you're in a specific position of authority, people assume that anything similarly related is going to be your expertise as well. For example, when I taught group fitness at Oregon State, I was a graduate teaching assistant and they paid my tuition. Woo, go Beavs. Thank you for that 60,000 tuition remission. But I had a lot of my undergraduates come and ask me, right? Because I'm young, I'm close to their age, I'm super fit. They would ask me diet questions. And it was actually against the law for me to give any dietary coaching advice, and also not healthy for any students that might be either diagnosed with eating disorders or close to. So you get questions that aren't always in your line of expertise. But one really cool thing about the Army is that they do cross training. They want you to learn a little bit about what all the jobs are around you, so that if someone calls in sick or you lose a soldier, it's not like your whole unit's not going to fall apart. You have that cross training and protection. So that's what the sleep specialist doctor was helping us with. He said, I'm going to give you information to help with like the quick answers to those questions. But anything that crosses outside of these questions that I'm going to share, this information I'm going to share with you, that's when you would recommend a referral to a sleep specialist doctor. So it was really helpful. So some of the things that this doctor talked about, can you bank your sleep? And banking sleep, at that time, the research didn't really show evidence that it was possible. And you might be thinking, what is banking sleep? So that's that friend that stays up all night, Monday through Friday, because they've got like 4 jobs, they got a couple kids, and they're like in their master's program, whatever. And they're like, I'll just catch up on Saturday and Sunday. Well, think of it like this. Think of that old adage or that old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It never says, eat 7 apples on Sunday and you'll be good. No, what happens if you eat a bunch of fruit all at once, or anything, too much of anything is not good all at once. So it's good to spread it out if you can. So banking sleep, not really any research on that actually helping with catching up on your missed sleep. Once you miss it, it's gone. You can't catch up on it, but you can slowly add time back into your routine. A few minutes, maybe start to go to bed 5 minutes earlier if you're struggling with staying up too late. Try and go to bed, set your routine. We'll talk in a little bit about nighttime routine. Set it maybe 5 or 10 minutes earlier than you went to sleep last night to gradually adjust to your goal sleep time. So that was one thing that we had asked him. Another thing was like, how does it interact with our weight? We did have a registered dietitian on the team, and she did talk about the hormones. He dove even deeper into it. So leptin and ghrelin, one of them actually provides like the information to your brain that says, I'm full, I'm satisfied, I don't need to eat anymore for a few hours or a day or whatever. So when you don't get sleep, and I'm blanking on which one it is, it might be the ghrelin, leptin, all my cool experts in hormones, y'all can comment in the threads below. But when your sleep is off and you don't get the recommended amount of sleep for whatever reason, you're going through high stress season, or new baby in the house, whatever it is for you, over time, if that becomes a habit, then over time that hormone level in your body either raises or it gets depleted, and it no longer tells your brain that you're full. So then what are you going to do? You're going to keep eating, and you're going to keep eating and keep eating and keep eating and keep eating. My mom's dear friend, she passed away shortly after we lost my father, like 6-8 months after. She actually told me she was obese for, I would say, the majority of my life that I knew her, and she's family friends. Her husband and my dad knew each other in like they were 5 years old, so like they're very close family friends. And she dealt with obesity for a long time. For her, she had some hormonal imbalances. She never had the feeling of being full. So there are those outliers in data. If that's you and you never feel full, you might be a social eater where you will eat whatever is on your plate until you start to notice other people around you stop eating. And that might be you. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. You might check with your doctor to see if you could get some hormone replacement pills if there's some, or if you're concerned about your weight, of course, more veggies. You want to follow the food plate recommendations or the my plate. But leptin and ghrelin, one, when it gets off balance and it tells your body you're full, and then it no longer says that, well, then you're going to keep eating. The opposite is true for the other hormone. One provides the feeling of hunger. So it actually like releases that, okay, it's time to eat again. And that one gets accentuated when you don't get enough sleep. So not only is your body not telling you that you're full anymore, but it's also telling you that you're hungry more often than you actually are. So some little tricks that were recommended from this doctor, and also what I've read in the literature pretty consistently throughout, is our body does not actually recognize, our mind does not recognize the difference between thirst and hunger. So what I mean by that is, if you notice that you're eating a lot and then you're feeling guilty afterwards because you shouldn't have had that 5th meal that day, is to drink a tall glass of water If you finish the glass, or I should say, when you finish the glass of water, if you're still feeling hungry, you might actually be hungry and go have a snack or go have a meal if it's been a while. Um, if you're no longer feeling those hunger feelings, then you were dehydrated. It's a pretty simple fix. It doesn't work for everybody, of course, because there's always those outliers, but try it out and let me know. Let me know in the comments how it works for you. So those two hormones, leptin and ghrelin, Grelin, I believe, if you want to Google it yourself and get more research on it. Those are major. We all have those hormones in our body. We all have different levels of it. And there's a lot of variables that go into our hormones. I'm not a hormone expert. I would love to have someone on the show so we can talk more about it in the future. So if you're listening and you are, reach out to me. So that was another thing that the sleep specialist doctor talked about. I knew personally, prior to working there as a health educator, I worked there right after my undergrad. And the economy was really terrible, like super bad. I graduated in December 2008 from my undergrad because it was a 4.5 year program at PLU. Go Lutz. Was not excited about paying those private loans off. Let's just say that. And, having a job anywhere was good at that time because it was really hard to get work. And so I drove, one of my friends helped get me a connection to an interview to drive for the Wounded Warrior Battalion. And so I drove the soldiers in those like long vans, the 15 seaters, I think it was, or 13, whatever it is. And one day I had this soldier in my car. He was a young guy, maybe like 25, 26, somewhere around there. And I was driving him to his doctor's appointment. And sometimes there was multiple soldiers in the car, and sometimes doctors would hop in our van because we would transport it was at Madigan Hospital. So like from Madigan to like Old Madigan, if you're familiar with that area. And so sometimes the doctors would be in there, but this particular day, nobody else was in the van. So I was driving him, I think, from the gas station to his house or something, and on post. And I said, "How's your day going?" And, people open up with people in the car, sometimes with their drivers. If you're a Lyft or Uber driver, I'm sure people open up to you like a therapist, like you're the therapist. And he started talking and opening up about why he was there, because he didn't have any like physical injuries that I could see. And he said, "You're probably wondering why I'm not walking home." And I said, "No, I don't judge anybody." He says, "Well, I haven't slept in 5 days." And I was like, "Holy crap, that sounds terrible." And he's like, "Yeah." And they can't figure out why yet. He's like, "My mind just keeps racing." I was like, "Well, hopefully it gets better." And he's like, "Yeah, for me, I don't mind for me, but I just want to fall asleep in my wife's arms. I want to be able to fall asleep with her, and I can't. And I wake her up. So then I sleep on the couch. And so it's like, it's affecting our relationship." And that really struck me. I'm sure he's not the only soldier that struggles with their sleep. So some things that he said were starting to work. He was going to therapy and doing different things that were required of him, but also he wanted to work on because he cares about his wife. He cares about his relationship with his family. And the only reason why he fell asleep at day 5 was out of pure exhaustion, he said. So some things that he said were working for him. He was doing EMDR therapy at the time. And I'm not super familiar with that one. I know I studied it in college, but if you're an EMDR specialist, I say it's emotive, something about the eyeballs moving a little bit. Y'all can reach out to me and maybe do a podcast episode and vlog so we can get a little bit more clarity in that one. But essentially, that one was working really well for him. And then they did like a cross breeded program with mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which I'm super familiar with, which my program at Move Happy, where I designed it at the psych hospital, is kind of the main foundation the first couple of weeks of the content in the program. And that one is really being like present focused and using your senses to help you be present. So he said that helped him along with the EMDR for getting a little bit better sleep. So I would recommend, if you're struggling, if you're not already talking to a therapist, definitely reach out to, whether it's a counselor, therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist. Highly recommend that. And if you don't have insurance, some of my listeners maybe be low income. They usually have sliding scale. I've been through some real tough times, and it's humbling. But if you need the help, there are, therapists and psychologists, they go into the field because they care about you. They don't go in the field, well, some, I'm sure, but majority of them don't do it for the money. They do it because they want to help people. So I strongly recommend that you look online, or you reach out to uh, your doctor's office. You can usually talk to a nurse there for free over the phone and say, what's the phone number for, mental health services that you recommend, things like that. And then just start calling people. Hey, do you have sliding scale option, or do you have, income based therapy sessions, and kind of go from there. Um, you can always read my content. Hopefully my content helps you, but I'm not a licensed therapist. So I always refer to the specialist. I worked with a lot of licensed therapists, and I'd like to think that I'm adding value. I know people have told me that I am, but that's not my legal expertise. So I want to make sure that you're in the right hands. And if you can't find a therapist in your local area for whatever reason, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you find someone, or connect you to, there's some that do remote work that I met a lot through LinkedIn, just through the content that I share. People, like-minded people want to connect. So sleep is super important, and it can affect our mental health. It can affect our happiness level, which is why this whole week is on sleep and joy. So when you get into a rhythm, a routine, a nighttime routine of getting good sleep, you feel rejuvenated, you feel happy, you feel like, just imagine yourself after a full night's rest, like how that feels. And imagine if you could do that every single night. Um, it doesn't have to be some fictitious, imaginary dream in the air. It can be for you, but that might mean that you have to sacrifice some things that you're doing right now to start changing your behavior to allow for more sleep in your life. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about nighttime routines. I'm going to talk about bedtime routine, and then also morning routine, because I really believe that it's not just kids that need a nighttime routine. I have been pretty consistent the majority of my life. I've kind of been my own healer with a lot of this stuff, because we came from a single income family. I would say low income, but it was a single income family. I had two parents that were married, and my dad passed away a few years ago, but um, my dad was the sole income earner for the majority of our upbringing for me and my brothers. And I'm the youngest. So all I experienced in my upbringing was, um, until I got to high school, was my father being the single income earner. So, and also like he empowered us to earn our wages. So I was working at a very young age. I had my first job at 9 years old, um, having a paper route. And I also had a mouse business, selling my baby mice to the pet store to make some cash, or make some credit to buy my food and hay stuff, all that jazz. Didn't last very long, but he really empowered us to earn our own wages, earn our own income. And we didn't talk a lot about mental health. In fact, I don't think we ever talked about mental health in the home until I was struggling as a 14-year-old, with some big transitions going into high school, and personal stress, personal stuff. And then the conversation came up, and I got to experience 3 sessions we decided to do a Christian therapist route with, I think it was Krista Ministries, and shout out. I think that was what it was. And that was all that insurance allowed. And when I studied in school, I was really interested in psychology. I was passionate about that. So I did exercise and sports psych for my master's, and I was taking one of my, they call it GUR classes, or general university requirement. One of those classes was intro to different psychotherapies. And so I learned in that class most insurances allow for 3 sessions, and then you have to pay out of pocket. So if you have more than that with your insurance, you are golden, you are blessed, and you should utilize it to the fullest extent, because it's essentially you talking for 30 minutes to an hour with someone, and all they want to do is hear you talk. You get to let it out with someone that's not related to you, that's not going to judge you. And it's really, really good. So, going to a therapist can help with your sleep and help with a routine. But that was one of the things that I talked to with my therapist when I was 14, or I should say, she wasn't a therapist, she was a licensed counselor, so a little bit different. But in any case, we talked about, she asked me, what do you do when you're stressed? Like, what works for you? Like, how do you work through your problems? And a couple of different things, I said I try to be kind to others, and I try to see the bright side of situations when I go through hard times. And I said, I need sleep. I go to bed at 9 o'clock every night. Like, it was, I've been like that for a long time, except for when I was in this cool elite music group in high school. And we had gigs sometimes during the week. And then I had all these endorphins going through me after the show was done. And I wasn't able to go to bed right away. But I learned to kind of work through and process those feelings of being on stage and performing, and those fun hormones that are released. But I'm going to talk about what works and what has worked really well for me. I did have some people reach out through Instagram and through other channels, at The Real Move Happy. If you're on Instagram, you want to follow. But they actually didn't have a routine at all. They just had like when they went to bed. And I really believe that the last hour before you go to bed should be specific to getting your mind and body ready for bed. So take this all with a grain of salt. You may like some, you may like none of it, you may like all of it. Take as much as you like and leave what you don't. So, what I do for my nighttime routine, and this is like 99% of the time, not always perfect with it, right? It's okay to have those off days. But I am off screens, anything electronic, the last hour before bed. Those are the nights that I sleep like the best, that I feel the best the next day. Last hour before bed, I turn lights down low. I have a little night light by my bed, and I don't look at my phone. I turn notifications. I shouldn't say notifications. I put it on airplane mode, so nothing comes through. It's still, I can get a call from my emergency people through the Wi-Fi, but that works for me. It might not work for you. Um, and what else do I do? I will usually read 10 pages of a good book that puts me in a positive mind space. It doesn't make me think too hard. Um, for me, I like to read like 4 or 5 books, and switch it up each night. Some people like to just read one book until they're done with it. Hey, whatever works for you. But I actually touch the pages, the physical pages, because I feel like for me, when I'm using, because our eyes have muscles just like the rest of our body, they're a little bit different formed. But when our eyes are tracking on a piece of paper without the blue light technology, I feel like just the action of going back and forth, or if you're in Japan or somewhere, you might be going up and down. But just that physical action, our eyeballs are moving, can actually help with getting our body tired, getting our eyeballs tired, and getting ready for bed. Of course, brush your teeth and all of those things. If you wear, your skincare routine, whatever you do at night, if you have any nighttime medications, and that all should be in that hour before bed, so that the last 30 minutes you can actually lay in bed and relax. You're putting yourself in a relaxed state. I have a diffuser, and I don't use it every night, but when I do use it, those nights I seem to sleep better. It helps clear out my nasal passages, and there's different scents. You can get different essential oils. There's different scents that help promote the feelings of rest and sleep. And you can hop in a store or order online essential oils. Some of them actually say sleep on them, or I know like lavender is a popular one. So those are some tips for a nighttime routine. And I do a vision board. And for those of you that are watching the YouTube channel, this year's vision is all about love. And it might be a little bit hard to see because I was trying to get the lighting in here, but um, for I have different areas all the way from self, God, family, romance, business, all of that, all the way out to world, kind of from inward outward. But for self, I wrote down morning and evening routine. Think of pews like in the church, PEWS. So prayer, exercise, writing, and singing. And I try to do all four of those in the morning and in the evening, but it just depends for the singing part. If you have people you live with, and if it's early morning, you don't want to wake them. But that works for me because I'm all about empowering you to live your happiest life. And I have to be that role model for myself. So singing is one of those things that brings me joy. And I know that it brings others joy because I've been able to do some pretty cool things pretty effortlessly through music. And it's good to practice also. So I try to add singing in there at least once a day. But doing that nighttime routine is going to be super helpful. And be easy on yourself. If you've never done a nighttime routine, like getting ready for bed and getting your body and your mindset like psychologically ready for sleep, it's probably going to take a little bit of time. If you're used to watching, Amazon Prime or Netflix, or, watching a movie, or, playing video games with your friends, like it might take a little bit of adjusting to say, nope, last hour before bed, I'm turning off all electronics. So be easy on yourself. Maybe start with, if you normally use electronics every single night, maybe see if you can just do it 5 nights a week instead of all 7, and then gradually, lower it down. Like try different things. There's no hard, fast, solid laws about this, but getting more sleep is gonna help your mental health 100%. And it's up to you how fast or slow you want to take yourself to getting more sleep. So another thing the sleep specialist doctor recommended is the standard hours of sleep. Some people need more, some people need less. Some people can function on 4 hours of sleep, and they're like, it doesn't affect me at all. Like we all know those people in our lives. I know my mom was like that. She didn't need a lot of sleep growing up. Um, but what is recommended through the literature consistently throughout for a variety of age groups, for adults 18 and up, 7 to 8 hours of restful sleep. So getting into your REM sleep for that amount of time, if you can get it most nights of the week, it's really going to be optimal to helping you perform better at work, help you be kinder to your family, and help for opportunities to build those relationships that you need to build out, whether it's with friendships, romance, etc., etc. And nobody wants to be around a cranky puss. So if we can be kinder and more loving to others through just doing something that's free for us, just going to bed a little earlier, why not, right? So 7 to 8 hours. And I talked about it earlier, but if you're only getting 4 hours, don't try and go for 7 tonight. Okay. If you're only getting 4 hours consistently on average, try getting 4 hours and 5 minutes tonight, and gradually add a little bit as you go. Just like we recommend for exercise, you only want to add, 5 to 10 kilocalories burned per week. If you're adding, as far as like 5 to 10, I should say kilocalorie minutes, a little bit more for your cardio, more steps, whatnot, maybe 2,000 to 5,000 steps added more per week. Same thing with sleep. Gradual change is going to help optimize you to turning it into a habit, right? If we do anything too fast, it's not sustainable. Okay. And that is pretty much it. There was more, tips and tricks that the doctor provided, but I want to keep this short and simple so that you can go on and do all those other things that you want to do. I'll quickly give you a morning routine that works for me. You can take it or leave it for yourself. But get an hour where you're not on your screens, where you're not being influenced by anyone outside of your own brain, your own creative thoughts, and set some sort of routine for you. I started with the Miracle Morning Routine, which is Savers, and I've translated it to my own version, which I just shortened to Pews because I multitask. So the Savers is like silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scripting or journaling. For me, I will in my morning, sometimes I change it up a little bit, but I'll wake up and I start with gratitude. For me, I believe in God. And so I am grateful that God gave me another day on this earth. He filled my lungs with air. So I have a little conversation with God first thing in the morning. And then, I drink my water, things like that. But I do my exercise with some music and usually do some dancing or whatever my muscle fitness body section of the day is. I get my exercise in. So I do electronic for the music part, but I'm not looking at emails or anything like that. For me, that works for me. And then I'll do, if it's a high transition state, meaning I'm going through lots and lots of changes, I will journal. I will journal ideas. I will journal I am statements for myself, positive affirmations. I will also jot down how much sleep I got so then I can cognitively be aware if I only got 2 hours. Okay, I'm going to be easy on myself today because my memory is not going to be super strong when you don't get your regular sleep. Short-term memory is like one of the first things to go. So that's what I do. That's a morning routine. Feel free to adapt however you like. Most leaders have some sort of routine that they have time for themselves to fill their own cup so that they can be the best for others. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm really honored that you took time to either listen to the show or watch me. And here is the Move Happy Movement podcast and vlog. We are doing a fun singing contest, and I should say not singing contest, but downloads. And I'm going to be providing you, and those of you that are consistently listening to the show, sharing the content, showing evidence that you're listening and you're applying the knowledge that I'm spitting, so to speak. Once we hit 10,000 downloads on the podcast, specifically from iTunes, it's also on Spotify. Somebody put it on some other platform that I didn't put on there, but hey, we're going to count that too. Once we get to 10,000 downloads, I'm going to be personally inviting those of you that have caught my attention, meaning you're sharing consistently, you're writing reviews on iTunes, and you're helping spread this brand globally because I can't do it without you. And I'm so grateful for all of you. So I'm going to give you the gift, and I will be having a private concert where I'll be singing some originals, and I'll have some of my musician friends joining along, and it will be very fun online with COVID restrictions. So you get to watch it from wherever you're at. So if you want to be invited to that, make sure to listen all the way to the end. I'm going to check here shortly, and I love you all. See you next week.